Alright, let's shoot this amazing video! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Apophis Taking Reviews, and you're watching the 4,000 subscriber special on this YouTube channel. Never thought I would be saying this, 4,000 subscribers before the end of 2024. I started this YouTube channel 2 years ago with barely 200 subscribers to my name, and look at me now in 5 or 6 videos and 5 shorts. This channel has been grown into a 4,000 plus subscriber empire. I wouldn't call it an empire because I'm still a small YouTube channel, so don't get me wrong. But for me, this has always been a dream. So ladies and gentlemen, without your support, this wouldn't have been possible. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Liam, also known as Apophis, and I do watch reviews, designer reviews, and luxury item reviews, and of course technology reviews, and give you my honest opinion from end consumer to end consumer without scripting my videos. A lot of people say I should script my videos because it will make it a bit more, well, how do I say it, shorter, but it feels like I would lose my authenticity when it comes to making this type of videos. I'm trying to make them as short as possible and to cut straight to the point, but sometimes, you know, it's not as easy to do if you want to make the most authentic review videos as possible. So that's why I don't script my videos. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about a watch, and not as the watch that I'm having on my wrist right now, but I will show it anyways. So this is my most affordable watch in my collection. This is the Certina DS Action Diver Powermatic 80. It's about 800 euros. Well, it's entry-level Swiss luxury, so you don't have to save up you don't have to save up a lot of money to buy a Certina or a Hamilton or a Tissot. Very, very affordable. This is the early version, of course, with the aluminum bezel instead of the ceramic bezel on the new version. But yeah, Certina, you can never go wrong with that brand. Very, very well respected in the watch collecting community and considered quite affordable in terms of specifications and in terms of what you get. 80-hour power reserve, which means you can lay the watch down for 3 days and it will still be running. Of course, Certina is part of the, well, how do I say it, Swatch umbrella next to Hamilton and of course Tissot, Longines, and many other brands. But yeah, definitely if you have a bit of cash and you want to buy a nice luxury piece, entry-level luxury piece, I wouldn't call this luxury, but yeah, still quite a bit of money to spend on a watch for most people, so that's why I say it like that. But very, very beautiful timepiece. I still wear this on a daily basis. I believe this was my first ever true authentic, well, true authentic, I mean every watch is authentic in my collection, but still, I mean my true first Swiss made, fully Swiss made diver watch that I had in my collection. You know, there are brands that claim to be Swiss made, right, but use only a Swiss movement and the rest is made in China, which is kind of unfortunate, right? So yeah, but let's put it back into my watch winder, and the watch winder symbol that you see is the Rook's symbol. I purchased this watch winder for 650 euros. It has place for 8 watches to wind and 4 watches on the bottom, so you can switch your collection all over. So if you have a larger collection like me, it's very handy to have something like that, and you can let it wind on a daily basis and your watch will still be running perfectly even if you switch around watches. So today in this video, let's cut straight to the point. I'm gonna talk about this watch in my hand right now. I just put it out of the watch winder. This is of course the 116508 2021 Rolex Newman Daytona. I featured this watch in many previous videos. I've worn this watch in many previous videos because still up to this day, even though it's a solid gold Daytona, I love this piece so much. Gonna talk about the specifications, how it wears, gonna talk to you about, well, Rolex gold models in general, where this watch sits in the hierarchy of the Rolex catalog. Gonna talk to you about its availability and if it's a watch that's hard to get or not. I'm gonna talk about all the might and glory and history of the Daytona and its not so nice backstory of the Daytona, and then at the end of the video I'm gonna give you my honest opinion. So without further ado, you're watching Apophis Taking Reviews, and let's get into today's show. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk Rolex Daytona and let's talk a bit about this piece. So this is the 116508 and was produced in 2021, this model for me. And yes, it is the full gold, full bracelet. You also have the version with a ceramic bezel insert and of course an oyster flax bracelet. But I don't understand why you would pay as much as this watch for a ceramic bezel insert and a rubber strap, while you can get basically for almost the same price this full solid version of this piece. So let me zoom in real quick and talk to you a bit more about this piece. So yes, beautiful lighting right now. As you can see, it's a matte black dial. It's not a satin or gloss dial like most people think, but I love how the light plays and makes it look like it's actually a glossy dial. And then in certain other lights, it is, it's a matte black finish. Of course, the subdials beautifully made out of the same material as the case and bracelet. Very, very intriguing. The Daytona has been the most popular, especially the modern Daytonas like this one, have been one of the most popular watches in the Rolex catalog, next to, of course, the GMT Master 2 and, of course, the Submariner. And then, of course, when we're talking about solid gold pieces like this, the Daytona and the Day-Date are the most popular. I think the least popular models are the Sky Dweller and of course the Yachtmaster. Still beautiful watches though, don't get me wrong, but yeah, people prefer of course the overall sizing and the overall dimensions of the Daytona, even though the side of Rolex says that it's a 40 millimeter. When I measured it myself, it's actually 38.5 in diameter, not counting the lugs. With the lugs, it's 39.5. So it's easier to say, of course, for marketing, it's a 40 millimeter, but actually the Daytona wears smaller in comparison to the given size. For example, an AP Royal Oak in 41 millimeters wears more like a 42 or a 43, so it wears bigger than its original size says, but the Daytona is the opposite. The Daytona wears smaller than its opposite size. I love how that bezel plays with the light and that dial plays with the light, so let me unscrew the chronograph pushers real quick. It has a beautiful sound to it. Once you engage your chronograph, beautiful click, and now you can see your chronograph running. As I mentioned in my Deep Sea Sea Dweller review as well, you have your 30-minute increments right here and your 12-hour increments right here. So you can actually measure up to a 12-hour endurance race with this watch. You have the tachymeter scale right here, so it says units per hour, and it's actually used, of course, to track the speed of your car or of a traveling object at a certain period of time and a certain elapsed time. Of course, this is not a flyback chronograph like some other chronographs, like for example the Zenith El Primero Sport XL, which is a flyback chronograph. By the way, Rolex did used to put Zenith El Primero movements inside of their Daytonas. They're called the Zenith Daytonas, and they stopped doing that ever since the year 2000, and made, of course, caliber 4130, which is inside of this movement, of this watch, which is inside of this watch. And now in 2024, with the newer versions of the Rolex Daytona, they have caliber 4131, which is an improved power reserve and improved stability movement, so a better improvement in comparison to, of course, this piece. But as you can see up close to the camera, it has a lot of details that you wouldn't see in many other, on afar. And once you hold this piece, it's a mighty thing. It's I don't know, having this as one of my watches is an honor in general. I mean, of course, there are more complicated watches in my watch collection than this, but I love wearing this piece because of what it represents. Of course, the Paul Newman dial makes it a bit more special, a bit more vintage vibes, a bit more sophisticated in my humble opinion. So yeah, very, very stunning, of course. With the Daytona text at 6 o'clock, beautiful red accents, red seconds hand of the chronograph. So how does it actually function? For example, the car has now passed the finish line and will stop right now. There we go. So in a minute or two, the car was traveling at 300 miles per hour while on track. So for example, if the lap time
takes about 2 minutes right now, and the car crosses the finish line, it would be traveling at an average speed of 300 miles per hour. That's kind of how this functions without having to use a phone or a, digital device. It's just something that has been around for many, many years, a chronograph, and it's one of the more complicated complications. So many people underestimate the complexity of a chronograph automatic in-house movement. Doesn't need to be an in-house movement. Even movements from Salida or from EDA or Valju are very, very complicated to put together. Not as complicated, of course, than developing an in-house chronograph movement. So let me reset the chronograph right now. Then, like within the Daytona, but still, don't underestimate the complexity of a chronograph movement. A lot of people think, when they're thinking about, of course, complex mechanism when it comes to watches, they think about perpetual calendars, they think about annual calendars, they think about tourbillons, but the chronograph is definitely also one of these complications that is showing a watchmaker's true skill, and it requires a lot more attention than, of course, your normal three-hander. Some people would say this is too flashy, and I did got the opportunity to purchase the white gold variant with the blue dial, but honestly, I don't regret picking the yellow gold variant, this one, over that white gold one. Alright, so before we actually switch the camera and talk a bit about the history and why I got this watch and move on with the video, I want to do a size comparison with, of course, my beautiful 12660 next to it, the James Cameron reference. As you can see, in terms of profiling, yeah, there is definitely a lot more beefiness to, of course, a deep sea sea dweller, and for most people, I do understand when they say, when they felt this, or a Datejust, or any smaller Rolex, it's very, very big and chunky, that deep sea sea dweller. But for size comparison, I wanted to do that real quick before I actually switch the camera and talk a bit more about the watch in general. Yeah, very, very beautiful pieces. I do wear this watch much more often than, of course, this Daytona. Reason why, yeah, stainless steel is just much harder than yellow gold, as you can see on the clasp in general. A lot of scratches. I don't know if it's picking up, but yeah, this watch has scratches all over it. Reason why gold is softer, of course, and you will have to be a bit more careful when wearing a piece like this than a piece like that. You can bang this around, doesn't really matter. With this, it's in between, right? Still love to give these two pieces both some attention and wrist time, but I do wear my James Cameron much more often than, of course, the Daytona. Now let's switch the camera and talk about the history of the Daytona. So now that we switched the camera back, let's talk a bit about the history of the Daytona, because I think it's very, very important to understand that the Daytona wasn't as popular, or was actually one of the least popular models when it comes to Rolex in the period it was released. In the 1960s, the first Daytona was released with a Zenith El Primero movement inside of it. And yes, that movement was very superior in terms of quality and finish and feel when the Daytona was first released. And yeah, it was still one of the most collectible Daytonas up to this day. The Zenith movements are just incredible, and Zenith does make their El Primero chronograph with a beat rate of 36,000 vibrations per hour, which is more than this one. This is 28,800 vibrations per hour. So no disrespect to Zenith. Zenith, very, very good watch brand. If you want a Daytona look and don't want to spend Daytona money, Zenith is the superior watch out of the two. I'm just gonna get it straight out of the way. Why did I purchase the Daytona? Because the Daytona is an icon, right? So let me put it on the wrist right now and talk to you a bit about the history. So yeah, the Daytona wasn't as popular. Oh, forgot to mention, by the way, before we actually get into the history, it has an easy adjust system. So you basically click that, and then you can size half a link extra. Very, very watch. So yeah, let's talk a bit about the history of the Daytona. It was released in the 1960s, and in 2000 they got the in-house caliber 4130, which is in this watch. But before that, they actually relied on Zenith movements. So like I said in the beginning of this part of the video, and still up to this day, it's one of the most popular versions of any Rolex. Definitely the Panda Daytona and the reverse Panda is the most
popular. The prices have come down on the stainless steel model, which I'm very, very grateful for. Retail is about 15 to 18, and in COVID period, the price of a steel Daytona was almost as much as I paid for a solid gold one. So in that regard, that was nuts. But people pay that prices, but that time has been over. Of course, if you buy a Daytona at retail, in general, you will make a small profit. Usually you can find a steel Daytona for about 20, 22, something like that. But don't pay more than that if you want a, well, Panda Daytona or steel Daytona. And of course, even the, well, gold models have come down a bit. Now, of course, these do retain their value much better. Reason why, because you still have that precious metal instead of steel. Steel really doesn't increase in value. It's more the perception of people wanting that keeps the price up. With this, it's a lifetime investment in general, because you still have that gold substance that you can sell, even though you don't need to watch anymore. So in that regard, it's a safer thing. So is it hard to get your hands on a solid gold Daytona? Honestly, it's harder than, of course, for example, a gold Sky Dweller or a Day-Date. But in general, the gold models don't sell as fast as the steel models. So usually, if you walk into an AD and you ask for a gold model, a solid gold model, usually the waiting time is between 3 and 6 months, which is not that terrible. Maybe a year. And I see this with stainless steel models coming as well, because yeah, you know, supply is just coming down, but the demand for these watches is also coming down because of the, well, economic period that most people are in. So in that regard, is it wrong that you cannot buy something like this? No, definitely not. You shouldn't be spending that much on a watch in general. If I need to give you, well, smart economic advice, but if you can and if you want to, yeah, it's just an amazing experience overall. The weight on this, it feels so hefty, so mighty on the wrist. Once I wear this, I wear it with much more confidence than the James Cameron Deep Sea Sea. Even though this is still a very, very well-respected watch and a very good watch in general, an over-engineered dive watch, there is just something special about a solid gold piece. There is nothing in the world that can replace that. Whether you buy, of course, the Daytona, or whether you buy an Audemars Piguet, a Patek Philippe, a Lange, you know, any solid gold piece feels mighty on the wrist. It feels like you have arrived. It feels like you are someone. And yeah, it's just something more special. And then of course you have the platinum versions, which is the most expensive piece you can get in the decent, well, price range, because of course Rolex also has the rainbow Daytona, which is still on my list, honestly, with the full rainbow pave diamond dial, full factory set. Very, very beautiful. But yeah, 250 for that. I would rather buy a 5712 for that. But yeah, anyways, we're deviating a bit from the pad. But yeah, anyways, very, very beautiful watch. I do not regret purchasing this over the white gold variant. So let's put these babies next to each other. As you can see in size, there is a huge difference. But, you know, I think in general, it's nice to have both sides of the spectrum. You have the dressy side and special occasion side, and you have the everyday side that you can bang around and don't have to worry about. So yeah, anyways, that's that review for you. So I hope you enjoyed my short review on the Rolex Daytona and the reason why I purchased this watch. Thank you so much for 4,000 subscribers, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.